Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Sunday night hanging, well, right here on Sundays, because the title convenience. Sure, I'm Ben. I got my good friend Tye hanging with me tonight. Great to see you, Tye. How you been?
Ben, it's great to see you. I've been fantastic. It's great to be here.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to an awesome hang on a Sunday night.
Heck yes. Let's see it. Already in the chat, we got a bunch of people. Let's see, you got Charles 75N. My knees
Charles.
hurt. Paul P. Man Holland. Good to see you, Paul. Keith H. Let's see, my knees hurt. El Barge. Beastie Rich 581. Absolute Mayhem, who I keep forgetting to text because we're getting together next Saturday. Let's see, who else do we have here? Superfan Gary Davlin. Ben Allmark. Cushman NYC. Mark's Gas Station. Dave Chase. Ferd Burful. Dennis Ellis. Great to see all of you. JP Page 2. Awesome. Dave Chase. Scott Brockaway. Which I still have to email Scott Brockaway. I'm remembering Scott. I'm remembering eventually. Awesome. Go down the bottom. There's Hit Metal Works and Gary and Great Vanzini and Blackjack Guitar, Herb Fireside Studio, Richard Nagamitsu. Cast of characters. Great to see them one and all. So if you got any questions for either of us, ask away. You know, we're here to talk gear and just catch up and have fun.
Although we did see each other a few weeks ago, and
we did.
That was good. Always good to come together in remembrance of our dear friend Dave Nesdahl.
So true.
So and you were so generous to put that together and host that event, and thank you very much, Ben.
Hey, glad to do it. I'll say, especially this year, Desiree did the heavy lifting there because I was busy doing some other stuff. And I said, well, you know who Dave's friends are as much as I do. And she said, well, this is true. And so she said, well, I don't know how to turn stuff on. Don't worry about that. We'll host it here. You know, it's all good. All right. Yeah, Mayhem says, all good for Saturday. All right, Mayhem, be here for 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Saturday. And then we're heading to Toronto. So that'll be
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah. Good. So how are things with you, Ben? What's new?
Spring has sprung finally, which is nice.
Yeah.
We had a teaser a few weeks ago, and then it was one of those where it's 52 and sunny. Great.
Yeah, just kidding.
And then today it's 80. It's 80 today and sunny, and I am loving it. So I'm not saying I was catching some of Pete Thorne's show sitting on the deck in the sun, but
nice.
You know.
Nice. Yeah, I look forward to playing catch up on Pete's show. I like to watch Pete's show, but I usually have to do it on a replay.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. Andy Timmons was on with him today. And
yeah, one of my favorite guitar players, Andy Timmons. I mean, scary good. I mean, I was able to meet Andy several years ago. And wow, what a super player and even better guy. And just a tone monster. I mean, aside from how great the playing is, I mean, it just sounds great coming from him. So a real tone monster.
I blame him for a lot of my tone purchases in the last year now. So,
you know, Andy really kind of did some things for me just in terms of how he used dual delays. And I really went through that tone pursuit when he was using like I guess before he went to the Strymon Timeline, he was using like the dual electro harmonics
the memory
men, right? He had the dual memory men kind of doing that. Now he's got that Keeley Halo pedal. Do you have one of those, Ben?
I do.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
Ridiculous.
Man. Yeah.
The only pedal that I own with presets where I went, you know what? These presets are fine with me. No need to adjust a thing.
Absolutely right. And you know, when I early on, even before that pedal, I mean, trying to emulate, watching all of the gear videos because he's so in tune with what he's using and how he's using it. You know, he'd give you the dual delay settings, right? And so I remember at the time I was using like Eventide Time Factor, and I was dialing in the dual delay thing, trying to get it as close as to Andy. And then also the way in which the pickup configurations in his guitars. He's using the stack cruisers, which sound absolutely amazing. I mean, they're bridge pickups, and he's using it in the neck position and the center position, and sounds great. He can get that kind of violin tone, somewhat reminiscent of Eric Johnson, but Andy's got his own unique voice to the instrument for sure. But yeah, love his playing.
Yeah, and I recommend, because mine came in on Thursday, and if you folks haven't got one already, you might be able to find one. But his new AT mod, this thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's next on my list right there.
Well, hey, design to beef up a single coil for blues, whatever, humbucker with this into a Marshall is glorious. I'm just saying, it's glorious. So I really enjoy it in both settings, the fat setting and Andy setting, which does roll off some of the lows, which is nice because it does put you right in the mix.
Yeah, when I first got, when he released that, he released a record, God, probably 10, 12 years ago. I want to say it was called Revolution, maybe, something in that neighborhood. But he was using the boogies. And he may have just stepped into the boogies at that point and doing the stiletto and the Lone Star kind of blended kind of thing. And I was a boogie player for a long time, long time. And I had a Lone Star, and I went out and got a stiletto trying to do the whole Andy Timmons thing. I mean, it's so good that it's just inspirational.
I agree. Yeah, his tone is on point. Now he's playing with, he's got an SL68 sitting there. He's got the Marshall. He's got the Lone Stars. He's in his little his tone bunker there.
Yeah, I want to try an SL68. I've never tried one. And I'm in the southeastern United States, and I don't have a dealer near me that I can go and check one out. And I was in Nashville recently, and I went to check one out there, and they had just sold it, 2-3 days before I got there. So I just keep missing my opportunity with the SL68. But that might be the next. That might be the next thing on the list. Not sure.
Sure. See, everyone's talking where they are in the world here. Awesome. I want to say hey to Michael B. Live, Hit Metalworks as well. Great to see both of you guys. Lots of Texas talk. I'm seeing Texas. Well, Andy's in Dallas area now, so that makes sense. Very cool.
Yeah, I passed out. Let's see. I passed on buying a mint used Lone Star. Not sure, but I love the Lone Star. I mean, I think that the Lone Star. Now, I had the head version, and I had the version 1. So mine was so early in development, it didn't have the 10-watt switch. So I think I had a choice between like 150, if I remember right. But a lot of guys that I knew that were gigging with Lone Stars were using the combos. Were using the 112 combos. And man, what a great sounding amp. We have a guy from this part of the country. His name's Edwin McCain. He had some hit songs in the 90s. And Edwin, he was touring with a Lone Star at one time, and whether he was playing a Strat, a Tele, or a Les Paul through it, it just sounded brilliant. It was an amazing,
nice
amplifier.
What's up, G. Marie Hawkins? Good to see you, Stephen Franklin.
I do like the Friedmans, and that's kind of an accumulation over time. These three, and I've got two that are sitting over here. They just kind of accumulate.
They do
over time. I don't want to part with them though, because Yeah, I actually run. I have a Friedman FR cab too. It's right here underneath this Kemper. Sometimes I'll use it for a monitor inside this room. It's a great FR.
Nice.
So congratulations on your purchase.
Let's see. Richard was
makes good stuff, man. He's in tune with rock and roll. He makes great stuff. I really like
Right.
I really like his amp, and he's just got the right ear for what I want.
That's true. That's true. Richard Nagamitsu was asking where you're based at. Well, just south of you, Richard, because Richard's in the Charlotte area.
Okay, yeah, Richard, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, so I'm about 80 miles south of you.
Mm-hmm. Dwight Bailey in the house, the Hitman.
Oh, hey, Dwight. Dwight posted a new video this morning. I really liked it.
Yeah. Scott Brockway was asking, do you have a power station too?
I do not. I do not. Would you recommend one, Scott? I do not have a power station. I have an aux. I know those are very different things. Herb on Fireside Studio, almost in Myrtle Beach. My in-laws are in Myrtle Beach, so I go there often. And I play. There's a House of Blues in Myrtle Beach too. That's kind of on our stop. So we get in there a few times a year.
Ah, okay. Scott Brockway says he wants one so he can tame his basement and run effects in its loop.
Yes, that's brilliant. Oh, man, I love a Fender Bassman. Good God Almighty, Les Paul through a Fender Bassman. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. Such a beautiful thing that Jim Marshall started a company.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that, right?
Right. Gear Junkie 35, good to see you.
Hey, Jimmy Ray, this right here is a really early V1 of the PT. And I actually think it's so early. I want to say it's in the first 10 serials numbers. I hear you, man. That is a great amp, and it covers a lot of ground for a one-channel, fire breathing Dragon. It just cleans up so well off the volume knob.
Yep, it's crazy, but yeah, for such you're like, oh, it's got to be a one-trick pony. Nope,
not hardly. Yeah, you know what I love the most through it is a strap with single coils on a neck pickup. That and a Stratocaster. It's instant Jimmy, instant Stevie Ray. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's Boner Jams. Hey, man, good to see
Boner
you.
Jams.
I'm going to send Boner Jam some audition tapes to join his Slipknot tribute band.
There we go.
Yeah,
I dig it. He does like his Slipknot. I will say that the man is aficionado for that.
Well, I like to watch. I like to watch those guys. I never get to see it live, so I always see it in replay. But they were talking. I don't know whether it was this past week or the week before, and they were talking about tribute bands. And Jay asked him the question. He was like, "Are there many Slipknot tributes?" And that's a really good question. I don't know.
Not enough. That would be his
not
answer.
Enough, right?
Enough. Not enough.
Man, are you surprised, Ben, at how well the tribute market is doing?
Yes
it is
and no. Yes and no. It's almost like a progression, like the cover band is still a thing, but whereas it used to be, let's say, out of 100 cover bands, 1 or 2 would be a tribute band, but now it's closer to like a 10% skew, which I get because in a sense, like it really allows you, like if you're a fan of that band that you're doing a tribute to, you really get to deep dive it and play songs that band may not even play anymore necessarily, some of the deep cuts and stuff, and it's great. Hey, Vince Janela, good to see you.
Oh yeah, man. Hey Vince, I love watching you play, man. Vince has got some of the coolest old Parker Flies. I love those guitars. I want to say Vince has got maybe a Majesty or 2 as well, and I love watching him play.
Well, he's coming up on the end of Guitar Month. He's been doing a live stream, I believe, every day.
Yeah, Vince has got a lot of cool gear, man, and he knows what to do with it. I
I was gonna
really
say,
like.
Andy also knows how to use it too, which
Yeah,
is always nice.
yeah. But man, those old Parkers are just.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I still had mine. It's like one of the ones that got away.
I've never owned one. I played a handful. And I remember the first time I played one. So it was the summer of 1995. I got my hands on one. It was the first time I ever played through a rack unit too, because it was a very cool, large music store. It was a former car dealership converted into a music store. So it was guitars 6 high on the walls because it was a 2-story open concept. The upper mezzanine was all the drums, which was interesting. And then they literally had rack unit fridges set up already next to amps and stuff. And I went, oh, wow. I just feel like a pro all of a sudden. I picked up a Parker Fly and plugged it into this rack system into a Marshall half stack and thought I sounded glorious.
Oh yeah, man. And the guitar industry isn't known for being super innovative, right? I mean, we typically we don't want things that really push forward and are really forward leaning. Like we want the traditional stuff for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they're the instruments that our favorite albums were recorded with. I don't know, but the Parker Fly, the Music Man Majesty, and now the how do you say the really crazy one that came out by Music Man? Is it called a Kaizen? Like the Tobin Abasi guitar.
Okay.
I mean, just forward leaning, ergonomic, easy playing guitars. I mean, they're marvelous. I mean, I've got some Music Man guitars that just practically play themselves, right? I mean, there's a lot of innovation in those instruments. I wish that more people would have an open mind and kind of try them out, right? They're marvelous instruments.
I agree. What's up, John DeShane and Mark Taft? Good to see both of you. Yeah, I have one Ernie Ball guitar, and the build quality is insane. And it's not like I can point out any one particular thing. It's like, oh, this makes it awesome. It's just you pick it up, and it plays well, and it stays in tune. And I barely I've had to adjust the neck, the truss rod once in 3 or 4 years. Like, come on, because it moves so little that it's not worth putting on the workbench.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I gigged for a long time with Luke models, and so I came into Ernie Ball with the EVH model in the early '90s, and then I grabbed a Steve Morse model too, and I was just blown away. I was like, God, these guitars are great. Let me try this Luke. And for years, the Luke was my go-to guitar, and I played it in any and every musical endeavor that I was involved with, and I still have a great Luke that I played just this past week. I mean, just amazing guitars. And then when Petrucci came over, I had to try one of those, and I still have a couple of those guitars. And I keep threatening, that I'm going to get a Majesty, and I see Vince, he's got his, and it's in, I think they're inspiring. They're inspiring guitars. I'm not sure where a guy like me that does a lot of side work is going to play my Majesty live, but I'd love to play it, play it here.
Sure.
If I could find an improv band, Ben, like some, a fusion or an instrumental kind of thing, kind of like Vince is doing, I'd have a lot of opportunity to play it, but
sure.
I'd have to go out and do that. Oh yeah, Ferd says Fluff has been doing a series of the Ernie Ball Factory lately. Yeah, I like his stuff. Tye, do you have a favorite acoustic? I do. I have two. I mean, I have a really old Yari Masterworks guitar that's really old that an airline snapped the headstock with about 10 years ago. And after that, I bought a Taylor 414, which is that's a great guitar. It sounds great live, and I'm mostly a live player, so that guitar plays exceptionally well and sounds fantastic. And I was in a music store recently, Ben, and I played one of those new Taylor 200 series. Like, I guess it might have been the 214 CE. It kind of looked like mine. Wow, what an amazing instrument at an amazing price. Incredible price for a lot of guitar. My daughter got into one of the Taylor GS Minis.
Oh yeah.
She's 17, and she got into that, and that is a great sounding guitar. She got into the Koa model,
Right.
and man, what a great guitar that is. Don't headstock repairs make guitars better? You're right. In a lot of cases, they do. There's just so many gigs on that guitar and so much sentimental value on that after I was able to get it repaired, I kept it at home. I was flying back. I had used it. I had played it live in Louisiana, and I was flying back to South Carolina from Louisiana, and that's when my headstock got broken.
I played a Masterbuilt Taylor not too long ago. Oh, that thing was sweet.
Yeah, they know what they're doing there.
Oh yeah, right down to it says like this is the dude that built it right there on the insert in the sound hole. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And that thing, it sounded amazing. I was really shocked.
You know, Jimmy Ray makes another good point. He says, yeah, the Academy series are good as well. Yeah. So many guitars today that kind of fall into that budget category are so much better than the budget guitars that were available to us when we were kids. You know, when we were trying to play in the 80s and early 90s, and we were scrambling for all the dough we could put toward a guitar. The budget things today are way better than a lot of the things we spend our money on. You know, I mean, light years ahead of where they used to be.
Yeah, a lot of we're talking about that yesterday, Richard. We're hanging out at Along McQuaid for a few hours, Doug Strong and myself. That's why you don't see Doug Strong in the chat tonight, because, well, he spent the afternoon hanging out with me yesterday, so he's probably recuperating. He had come to Coburg, Ontario for his daughter had a dance competition, and well, Coburg's about 50 miles up the highway from me, Ty. So he's like, "Do you want to meet up for lunch?" Well, of course. So we meet up for lunch, which took about 45 minutes. And he's like, "So there's a music store right around the corner. Do you want to go hang out and play guitars?" Yes. So that, which was supposed to last for about an hour, was about 3 hours. And we just had a blast. And we played all kinds of stuff. And played a nice little import Martin D10. I was like, let's grab the cheapest Martin you could find. A little D10. And that thing, it sounded great. It sounded like a Martin. And it has one job, and that's to sound plausibly like a Martin. If you have that name on the headstock, and it did.
That's a couple of comments that I want to reach out to. Richard says that he was digging the Epi acoustics. Richard, there's a Guitar Center in Matthews, not far from you if you're in Charlotte. And I checked out one of the Epi Hummingbirds, and I was blown away at how great that guitar sounded. An amazing sounding guitar. Guitar 1952. Yaris are hidden gems that people overlook. He's a great luthier. I stumbled across it. I didn't set out to get a Yari. It's just a big black jumbo, and I was raised on a heavy dose of Elvis, and it reminded me kind of that. And I picked it up and played it, and it was just an amazing sounding instrument. I want to say it was built somewhere maybe around 86 or 87. I have never had any guitar player pick that Yari up and play it and not offer to buy it from me. Everybody, everyone loves that guitar. It just sounds amazing.
What's up, Michael Easter? Richard's asking, what's my go-to acoustic? For me, it's a D28. That's the sound I grew up on. with my dad playing one and countless albums as well, that's my bar.
That's
how
kind
close
of the
can you get
standard,
to that
right?
sound?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to
That's it.
beat. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the D28. I had an HD28 for a little while, and that was a great sounding
Great
and
guitar.
a great playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Sounded great.
What's up, Jeff K? Richard says he lives right by Matthews. Well, there we are.
Yeah, so he knows the store I'm probably talking to. He probably knows the store I'm talking about.
Speaking of Taylors, Guitar Man 45 just joined us, and he has a bunch of Taylor guitars. Bunch.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I like them a lot. I mean, they know what they're doing, and they lean into technology, but yet they sound great. They cut phenomenally, and they're easy to play. I mean, they're great guitars. I love the Martins too, though. I mean, there's something special about a Martin, and I don't want to overlook what Gibson's doing acoustically now too, because like that J45. I mean, that's a workhorse of a guitar. Those are great. Those are the Songwriter's a great guitar, and of course, the Hummingbird and the Dove. I mean, those are just the Western. The Gibson Western. I mean, that's just a.
I've always wanted a Dove myself because that's Tom Petty right there, a Dove.
I love those.
And,
I love those.
Lee says he bought a D28 reissue. It's a very nice guitar. The only problem I have with the Martins coming out today is they no longer do a V-neck.
Yeah,
I have a serious problem with that.
I read that. I also saw that they released a guitar that was new to me when I saw it within the last month or so. And it's a relic guitar, like Martin's doing a relic. And I want to say that it was based off of somebody's going to have to fact check me on this because I'm just trying to recall. Maybe it was a D18 or something like that.
Okay.
Relic. They were calling it like a street model.
Yes, I think that's what. Yeah, Guitar Man 45 has pre-ordered a Street Legend.
Okay, that's it. Yeah,
he's got one. He's got one on the way. Yeah,
Guitar Man 45. Good to see you, man. I hadn't seen you in a long time. Good to see you. Yeah, that's a it looked really cool the way that they did the relicing. It looked real. Hey Ryan, good to see you.
What's up, Ryan? Good to see you.
What about electric?
Yeah, I'll play anything with a V-neck profile too, Richard. Believe me, that's the Telecaster that still haunts me was a '57 Tele I played at Carter's that had a V-neck. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
What's up, Ricky?
Yeah, guitar 1952. You're absolutely right. Yari passed away. He designed most of the Alvarez line. You're right. Yep. Hey Ricky, good to see you, man.
Yeah. Good crowd in here tonight.
So what about on the electric side, Ben? You got anything new electric wise?
Right at the start of the year, I filled a need that I've been wanting for a few years now. Let's move the Marshall out of the way a bit. There we are. Because everyone needs one of these, Tye.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
It's I think it's a made in Indonesia, and for me, I had a Jet as well which I have since traded for the Marshall. And the Jet, I always found the pickups were a little dark, so I was at the music store. I plugged this thing in, and I was like, "My God, Tye, this thing sounds bright, like bright." And then I looked down, and it was actually on the neck pickup. I wasn't even on the bridge pickup, and I went, well, if the neck is going to be that bright, how bright is the bridge? And I went, oh, this is a rockabilly machine. So, yeah. And it loves anything you play it through, and it does that beautiful hold a note turning into feedback nicely because, you're not going to turn down the gain just because it's a hollow body. What's the fun in that?
I love it. I like the pinup sticker that you put on it, too.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of my deal. So
that's very rockabilly, Ben.
Yep.
A little a Gretsch with some space echo. You've got the rockabilly thing going.
Right? Yeah. Don't need a ton of gain, but just enough to have some fun with it. Then you got to play real scales, though. You can't be playing any of that pentatonic stuff because you got to do some half steps in there.
A lot of chromaticism. You know, I mean, I love the, you know, the whole rockabilly Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent movement, and then when you get to Brian Setzer, I mean, just forget it. I mean, come on. That's as good as it gets, man. And yeah, absolutely dominant chords, a lot of dominant chords, you know, flat sevens against major thirds. I mean, you're exactly right. You know, yeah, a lot of mixo.
Yeah, you're playing real chords too. You're not playing any of these just little power chords with 2 strings. You're going to use all the strings. Although I will say the one thing I did do it once I got it was after having it about 5 days, it had a set of flat wounds on it. Or no, sorry, it didn't have flat wounds, but it had a wound G. So I don't know what the gauge of string was on it, but it had a wound G, and I went, "Ooh, this I can't bend this."
Yeah, you know, I mean, we got a guy right here. Is it Ebarge? How do you say
Elbarge?
Ebarge?
Elbarge.
Yeah,
Lee.
I mean, there's three of the most important chords that everybody needs to know. You know, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7.
That's right.
Yeah, Ricky says, don't forget Billy Duffy. You know, Billy Duffy used a hollow body guitar in a really, really different way, right? I mean, when they did Dreamland and the Love record, I'm assuming he played a hollow body on Dreamland, right? We know he played it on the Love record, but I mean, we had not heard a Gretsch in that context before. Yeah, Billy Duffy. Yeah, and he made it look cool too, right? I mean,
damn straight.
He made it look good.
Yeah.
So what kind of strings do you put on your Gretsch, Ben?
That one, I believe, just has a set of D'Addario 9s.
Okay.
My deal is I try to go as light as possible on strings until the guitar sounds anemic, and then I'll bump them back up again. But if I can get away with 9 through 42 on anything, I will do it.
Yeah.
And that one said, sure, not a problem.
Yeah, did you? I think you and I talked about this once before. I don't know if we ever did it in a live context, but I mean the Rick Beato string gauge episode that he did, you know, it really made me go back and reconsider some things. Even though, you know, there's a Les Paul that I use quite frequently that I tune a half step down 11 to 49, and I. You know, I play 1 millimeter Dunlops with. So,
although I will admit, a set of an 11 through 49, 11 through 48s on a Telecaster, even in standard tuning, is a thing of glory. I don't know why.
Yeah, you gotta be a man. Hey, Caleb, good to see you, man.
Caleb, good to see you.
Hey, yeah, Caleb's out killing it. I love watching his content. Sounds great, plays great.
Vanzini wants me to put 11s and flat wounds on the Gretsch. I get it, but you're a jazz guy. You're a jazz guy. I want to be able to bend the strings. That's all I'm saying. If I put 11 flat wounds on, I'll never be able to bend a string. Still like to do my pedal steel bends.
Yeah. Yeah, so you got into the Gretsch thing then, big time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I say, I had a Jet, and it was okay, but it wasn't quite the same, right? And then I was hanging out at the music store, looking at something else entirely, and all of a sudden I saw this Gretsch, and I went, all right, and it played well acoustically. Let's plug it in, and I just wanted to know, am I going to be into a set of TV Jones pickups to make this thing sound good? No. Sound like say I thought I was playing the bridge. It was so bright, and I looked down, and that was the neck, and I went, "Oh yes, please, okay." And of course, plugged into a Vox because muzzle. Gretsch into a Vox is a glorious tone,
right? Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what scale length is that Gretsch? 25 and a half?
Yeah, I do believe Fender scale length.
Yeah. Caleb says 9 to 42 for life. Amen to that, man.
Whenever
Especially on a
possible.
25 and a
Except
half
for
inch.
my Ernie Ball likes 9 through 46. It sounded anemic with 9s. I got it originally had 10 through 46. I put 9s on it, didn't like it. Then I tried 9 through 46 and went, oh, okay, I like this. Whatever. That's what the guitar wants. That's what the guitar gets.
Yeah, I have some Strats that really like. Well, I have a Strat and I have a Tele that really seem to like 10 to 46, a half step down. I mean, that just seems to be the sweet spot for those guitars. But my Sirs, I run 9 to 42 on. The EVH guitars, I run 9 to 42, half step down. I try to go with that gauge, especially on 25 and a half inch scale guitars. But then my Gibsons, and they like a little heavier gauge. Like the lightest I'll go on those guitars are like the 9.5. The Ernie Ball makes a 9.5 set.
Yeah, the 9.5 through 44s, which are nice.
And that's as light as I'll go, on that. And then the one Les Paul that I use the most on the GNR gig is 11 to 49.5 step. There's just a vibe to that kind of thing, and I kind of feel like with that string gauge, that Les Paul, that scale length, the pick weight, it's kind of it's part of the thing, I mean, it just all kind of starts to make sense. And then the way you play the guitar when it's strung like that, stylistically, it's kind of easy for me to fall into. I hope that doesn't sound hokey.
Oh, I get it.
But
yeah, I try to get my Les Pauls as slinky as possible, so I'm like at 9 through 42, and I top wrap the bridge too.
Yeah, I like the idea of top wrapping. I think the struggle that I've had with top wrapping is just getting it to stay in tune.
Right. Well, yeah, light touch for sure. That's a given.
And
if you dig in a lot too, you can really, because there's next to no break angle, it's really easy to pop strings right out of the saddles.
I knock it out of the saddle. You're exactly the D and G string. When I top wrap, I knock it out of the saddle. Because on that gig, I'm wearing the guitar a little lower than I typically wear the guitar, so everything's coming down.
Yeah,
and heavy-handed. So,
what's up, Zach Thong? Good to see Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Josh Tamberg snuck in here at some point. Great to see Josh in here. Guitar Man 45 says, as soon as the studio is completed, he's getting a Gretsch Falcon. Nice.
Nice. Yeah, nice. So, Ben, on your Gretsch, what's the feedback like? Do you get a lot of feedback?
Not bad, but I can play with it, because I really enjoy it because I don't need an EBO. I don't need a Sustainiac pickup, because if you dial in the gain right, you get that perfect harmony where you don't need a noise gate, but as soon as you stop playing, kill the volume. But it's not a constant feedback, but with medium gain, it'll do a beautiful, like, endless sustain, essentially, because you can do that beautiful transition from note into feedback. Oh, love it.
Yeah, nice.
I haven't played it really much at stage volume, but we'll say upper room volume, not quite, that in between.
Yeah.
And you definitely know where you are standing in relativity to an amplifier when you're playing a hollow body too. I noticed,
sure.
Whether you're facing towards it or away or off to the side. It's like mic placement.
Dennis and I were having a conversation a couple of weeks ago about 335s, and while those are not totally hollow, they're semi-hollow, and I love a 335. I don't have a gig right now to play a 335 on, but that tone is so versatile, that comes from that instrument, whether you're playing it through, a big Marshall or whatever, or you're playing it through a deluxe reverb. You know, I mean, that guitar can kind of do it all.
It covers so much ground.
A lot of ground. And, you know, the feedback's not crazy.
Nope.
Guitar's fairly easy to play. I always kind of wrestle with keeping it in tune bit, but yeah, those are cool guitars. And I recently played a Heritage version of a 335. I don't remember what they call their guitar exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember. Is the Heritage the 135, or is that the Callings that does the 135?
Or maybe it's the 5 series. Maybe it's called like a 5 something or whatever. But anyway, it's the Heritage version of the Gibson 335. And man, what a fantastic instrument. It had a little tiny H535. Ricky's got it. It had like a smaller headstock than the Gibson. But as a result, maybe it's in my head, but as a result, the tuning keys were more in a straight pull with the nut, right?
Almost like a Nags. It reminds me of a Nags in that respect.
Yeah, you know, and I've played the Nags version of the Holla. I had Larry Mitchell's guitar for a few weeks, and I had his Holla body guitar, not his main Super Strat, but I had his Chenna for a few weeks. And what I noticed about the Heritage is, you're exactly right. It had that pull more like a Nags, and at least it felt like it was staying in tune a little better. So thoughts on an SG? How many Les Pauls do I need an SG? Well, I love SGs.
I like them if I can find one without neck dive. I know they do exist.
Well, I've not found them yet. So when you find one, let me know where it is, because but I do like the SG because it has this throaty character to it that the Les Paul doesn't have because of that thing. And I did an AC/DC tribute for a while, so I played an SG quite a bit, and I liked it. The SG that I liked, or the SG that I had like the old 57 classics in it. It didn't have their newest burst bucker or anything in it. It had the old 57 classics in it. That guitar sounded brilliant, and it had a little skinny neck on it. It was easy to get around on, and it stayed in tune. Did that head dock designed to improve on Gibson's problem? It does, but people hate it and want the Gibson shape instead, Terry says. Yeah, well, there's something to be said. You know, we were talking about the aesthetics of guitars, right? I mean, yeah, I hear you. I mean, the headstock's hard to get right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a headstock snob. I'll be honest. You know, I don't know what it is. And I don't necessarily like or hate the same ones that others like or hate. It's just personal preference. What's up, Mazzetti?
Heritage built in the original.
The SG Melody Maker might work too, because it had the narrower headstock, therefore less mass, so less likely to dive, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Ricky says Heritage builds a great guitar. I mean, I've only played that one guitar, and that one that I played was really good. And now it was an expensive guitar. I mean, I want to say it was north of $3,000. But God, aren't all guitars almost $3,000 now?
Right?
Crazy.
It's hard to find a good guitar for under $1,000 Canadian. It's like here, like the Slash and Bonamassa signature Epiphone Les Pauls are over $1,500.
Is that right?
Yep. So that would put them well over $1,000 US even.
Well, I played. I played one of those Joe Bonamassa 335s that has the Bigsby on it, but it's an Epiphone. It was an Epiphone model. It was a pretty fantastic guitar.
They're well built, I will say.
But I want to say it was like $1,200 US. Yeah, I want to say it was maybe $1,200 US, which is pretty pricey for an Epiphone, but it was a good guitar. I want to say it had some sort of burst bucker. Somebody fact check that. But
yeah, they basically have Gibson hardware on them, Gibson pickups.
When will Epiphones be priced at 2,500 and why? Why? Oh God, why? That's a good question. I mean, I'll tell you, I've played some Epiphones that I've been super impressed with. It's just how rock solid they are. They sound good. They play good. You can go gig with it, and you can take it and play in your bar band, and it's all you need, and that's perfect. And then I've played some Epiphones that I couldn't keep in tune, mostly probably because of the nut, but replace that nut and it could probably happen. But I've played some really nice Epiphone guitars.
I'll say it was interesting because yesterday noticing prices on stuff, the Epiphone, I picked up an Epiphone. I think it was one of the inspired by Gibson 335s. Like it had the little custom made badge, to cover up the holes from your traditional tailpiece.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's one, I noticed that right away. I'm like, oh, it's one of those ones. So picked it up, played it. I was like, this plays nice. Not sure if it's 1,700 Canadian nice. But it also had the block inlays, which I always dug on a 335. Okay, this is cool. And then I noticed there's an actual Gibson one happened to be in stock behind the cash register because they put the stuff that's over $4,000 behind the cash register. But me being me, I just walked up and grabbed the Gibson version, played it. Acoustically, basically the same, but ironic because the Gibson was shot in nitro, the neck was way stickier in the room, so it was way worse to play as a result. I had a much more comfortable experience playing the Epiphone bass with the slippery poly paint than with the sticky nitro. And I went, okay. But other than that, that was the only difference I found.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. At least acoustically.
The Schecter Corsair for the cheap 335 with a Bigsby. I've played the Schecter Corsair before. We have a Schecter dealer that's near me. I was in there doing something else, and I was like, that's a cool looking guitar. I'm going to pick it up and play it. Man, that guitar played fantastic. It was really a great playing guitar for the 20 minutes I played it. It was great. House of Twang. He got a Epi LP special, had a little work done to it. Great guitar. I mean, there's something there. I mean, you can get it. Vince made a point just a minute ago. He said the Alex Lifeson Epi is incredible. I played one of the Alex Lifeson Epis and one of the Adam Jones Epis. They were amazing guitars. Fantastic guitars.
They can't keep one of those Lifeson Epiphones in stock in Canada. They just can't do it.
Well, I believe that.
Yeah.
That's the national guitar of Canada now.
Well, it's funny because either they're covering a pre-order, like I was talking to the guys at Long McQuaid, and they're like, we'll get up one in, but then when you scan it in the system, it's like, oh, it'll come up, bing, Tye already pre-ordered. Okay, boom, it goes out. If they happen to have one that gets out onto the floor, it's gone the same day. It just happens it's gone the same day.
You just got to wonder, where the ceiling is for a lot of this stuff, right? I mean, when you look at the prices of a new Les Paul, all right. So I think I've told this story before, but I kind of fell into my first Les Paul because I really wanted a Jackson. Is really what I wanted. I mean, this was 1987. I really wanted a Jackson guitar, could not afford a Jackson guitar, and the dealer at the time couldn't give Gibson Les Pauls away. And he had a used Les Paul Custom that he took in on a trade for a Jackson. And he sold that guitar to me for next to nothing. I'm not even going to tell you what he sold that guitar for me. And that's kind of how I fell into playing Les Pauls. But the Les Pauls today are just a standard production guitar, so expensive. And when I got my first Les Paul, I was still in my teens. How would a teenager afford a Les Paul today? I mean, it's disappointing.
They have a PhD, and that's a Papa has dough. That's it.
It's disappointing in a way. I mean, I mean, the Les Paul through a Marshall is the sound of rock and roll that I was raised on, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what I kind of gravitated toward until I saw Eddie with the Super Strat, and you know what I'm saying? So but how would a kid afford a Gibson? So you wonder where the ceiling is for all of this, right? So
yeah, because I don't even, if you find one used, good luck. But it seems like most of the used Les Pauls I see now are basically case queens that are in mint condition, and the guy wants 90% of new in price for it because he's, oh, it's barely been played. Doesn't matter, dude. It's a used Les Paul. It's worth far less than 90% of value. I'm sorry. But
so Unbelievable says, how could I afford a Value Universe in 1990? Hey man, I hear you. The first guitar that I really saved my money for hardcore was an EVH Music Man in purple. And this is the early 90s, and I just had to have the guitar. I did acquire that guitar. And I wish I still had that guitar. But I did wind up getting it. And I remember thinking that, God, it's so much money. And the dealer, it was used, and the guy wanted $1,200 for it. And God, $1,200 and $1 million might as well have been the same because I didn't have either.
right.
And it was so hard to get that, to actually get that guitar. And then Unbelievable is talking about the Value Universe guitar, him being in kind of the same boat with that. I played one of those Pia guitars within the last 3 months. Have you played one of those, Ben?
I haven't had a chance yet.
Holy smoke. I have no idea where I would ever go publicly and play that guitar.
Right.
But good God almighty, is that an amazing guitar. Amazing guitar with a price tag to prove it. It's like, this is an amazing guitar, but would I ever pay that in order to have it to do what with? I mean, I would, a guy like me would constantly be asking himself, what would I do with that?
Yeah.
But
how can I
God
justify it?
almighty, is it a great guitar?
That's true. Okay, so Unbelievable's looking into another Parker Fly. Yeah, I know he has at least one already as well. The funny thing is, like, I remember when I was getting into playing, looking for my first electric, if you found a used Les Paul, because you can find a new one around here, a used one, it was a 70s Les Paul, either black or gold top, $500 with a bunch of buckle rash.
Pancaked.
Yep.
Pancake bodies.
Yep. 12 pounds, pancake body, black or gold, dealer's choice, with the buckle rash thrown in for free. And a used Strat was $600. A used Strat costs more than a used Les Paul. That's the funny part. And there was more of them around. But again, this area traditionally was big on country music. And for every Les Paul player, there was 20 Strat players. And
how many
Telly was 700. And there are only 900 new. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. Michael says he plays his Telly more than he plays his Jim.
Nice.
Yeah. Vince says Parker Fly prices are insane now. I get it.
Everything priced is insane now. I swear, I go into the used pedal section of a music store, and the prices I'm looking at, I swear, are the new prices. But it's just the way today's world is.
It's shocking.
Yep.
It's shocking. I mean, there are some really cool new products coming out of Japan right now, and so that it being built where it's being built, the craftsmanship is unbelievable. But the prices reflect that. I mean, they're expensive guitars, Ben. I mean, coming out of Japan. And when I was younger, we looked to Japanese guitars for exceptionally high quality at a great price equals a great value, right? And
because we were coming on the heels of our parents who went No, because all they had was the 60s Japanese stuff, which was built to spec what they were asked to build, which was junk. And so they're like, oh, Japanese stuff, it's no good. Whereas through the 80s, we knew, no, these guys have been building guitars now for 15, 20 years. They know how to build a good guitar. But the value was because they couldn't charge a premium like an American-made guitar. Whatever, I don't care.
There is no doubt in my mind that if you buy that
good hardware, I don't care where it's made, right?
I've got a couple of guitars that I really adore. I've got a Sir Guthrie that is an amazing guitar, and I've got a Sir Charvel. I've got a Guthrie Charvel that's an amazing guitar. So Guthrie's got a guitar coming out of Japan right now too. No doubt in my mind that's an amazing guitar, but it does have a big price tag. No doubt in my mind that the MIJ Wolfgang guitars are incredible guitars, but they got big price tags. They're expensive. They're not as expensive as the American, but they're still expensive guitars.
Unfortunately, I have a couple made Japan guitars, and I'll never get rid of them.
I'll tell you, Ben, the best Telecaster that I have is made in Japan. Amazing guitar. It's an MIJ from the early 2000s. It is a phenomenal. I'll put it against any Fender custom shop, and I have one, so I'll put it against the one that I have. I'll put it against the Fender custom shop Tele that I have, and my MIJ will come out on top.
What's up, Jack?
And that's not an indictment against Fender Custom, because Fender Custom Shop is amazing. It's just those two guitars compared.
Yeah, how well it's built. Sure.
Those two guitars compared, my MIJ is a better guitar. Under my hands. Under your hands, you might disagree. Okay, Jason says he has a friend that has a Japanese Les Paul. Forgot the company that makes it though. There's a few. Edwards was making guitar Les Paul copies in Japan that were pretty amazing. I think they have since moved that operation. And there's a Japanese import called Bernie that made some pretty sick guitars out of Japan. And then Tokai. I have a Tokai Love Rocket that is a pretty phenomenal guitar. I use that Les Paul to test pickups in on my Tokai Love Rocket. I think that's what the guitar is called. Oh, and then BC Rich 581 just nailed it. Bernie and Tokai made better Gibsons and Fenders at the time. Yeah.
And then, like Michael Easter, ESP, who was basically ghost building for a bunch of stuff in the 80s, as well as
and the Edwards that I just mentioned was ghost built by ESP.
Orville's, yes.
Orville's, I forgot about those. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, those Tokai hard puncher basses they're great. I agree, BC Rich. What's up, Eddie Fay?
Oh, Eddie Fay, he's picking on us. Yeah, we were lamenting about how expensive everything is now. That's what you missed. And yeah, we were being a little nostalgic and kind of comparing it to 70s and 80s prices, which fair or unfair, that's what we were doing. So you caught it. Yeah. Oh, Scott, Area Pro 2. I had an Area Pro 2 bass. I had a bass, Area Pro 2 bass with the killer crackle finish. This is 1988 maybe. And I had this Area Pro 2 bass with a crackle finish. It was a good bass guitar. I kept it for a long time.
Nice.
Oh, and then BC Rich 581 says, yeah, but the really great basses. Yeah, that was my experience. Yeah, Richard, I think the LPs right now they're probably better than the Les Pauls I bought in the 90s. They're probably better than the Gibsons I bought.
Well, it's just a Les Paul with poly paint. That's it. It's a Les Paul with poly paint instead of nitro. That's the big difference. Everything else is negligible.
You know, at the end of the day, you got to find a guitar that speaks to you, regardless of country of origin, or what the wood is, or what the pickups are, or what the neck profile is, or how big the frets are, or how small the frets are.
Yep.
You just got to find the guitar that is right for you. And if that is made in the US, then great. If it's made in Mexico, whatever. If it's made in Timbuktu, whatever. Whichever, when you find that instrument that speaks to you, hold on to it. And don't let any kind of ancillary marketing influence how you feel about that instrument. At the end of the day, it's all about how well do you play it? Can you express yourself with it? Can you do what you want to do with it? And then if the answer is yes, then keep that guitar. Yeah, Eddie,
I want to hear that story. Unbelievable. I'm just saying, any story involves a drummer attacking your guitar with a can opener, I need to know about. I need to know that story. So,
yeah, I had a drum riser attack the headstock of one of my old Les Pauls a while back. I turned and I was near a drum riser, and I turned and I moved my guitar like this, and it smacked the edge of the riser, broke my headstock, and haven't gotten it back yet. Sent it out for repair. Any of you that are on my social networks have seen that break. It's pretty serious Les Paul break. Wasn't sure if they were going to be able to reattach that headstock. And it was an old standard too, Ben. I mean, 20 years ago, nobody would have paid $500 for that old standard. And I think today people would kind of want it.
And it'll play better after the headstock repair, because that's especially true with Les Pauls.
Well, maybe it'll stay in tune better. I always had a little trouble with that guitar, keeping the G string in tune. So, we'll see.
And don't let a little headstock repair ward you off, folks, if you're looking at a used piece of gear, because just thinking back again, and it's an Epiphone 335 that a good friend of mine owned. He's broken the headstock off twice, and it still plays amazing.
I will say
this. It himself.
I will say this. I would not pay a premium. I agree with Ben. Do not let a headstock repair scare you away from a guitar. But I would not pay a premium for that guitar. No. I just wouldn't. Remember, the guy selling it for a reason. He's selling it with a headstock repair. You and I both know that affects the overall value. And I will tell you that, when I'm looking at an instrument like that, I'm trying to consider what I'm going to do with it. If I'm going to take it out, if I'm going to play it, and I'm going to use it a lot, a headstock break, I could care less about it as long as the repair was done properly.
Yes.
But it's not going to be an heirloom instrument with a headstock break. And so if you're looking at it to fill that, if you're looking at it for that purpose, avoid it. But if you're just looking for a player, grab it.
Yep.
You can usually grab it for a great price. Don't pay a premium for a guitar with a headstock break. Fruitcake Tony, man, I love that guy. Hey, Fruitcake, good to see you, buddy. Tony and I saw a bunch of Les Pauls played a couple of years ago. We were at the same. Tony and I have been to a dozen of the same shows over the years.
Right.
So good to see you, Tony.
Great to see Tony. Tony's come up on. He's got I believe the 3-year anniversary show coming up soon.
Yeah, I saw that. He's been doing it for 3 years, and that's fantastic. Ben, you and I were talking before about this little community that we all have. There's such a great group of people providing quality content for their viewers. Tony and Charles, Sandra and his team doing great things, and Jay and Caleb and Under the Bus, they're doing great things. Ben Coombs has been doing amazing things. Andrew at the 5150,
Right.
has been doing amazing things. It's good to see this community just thrive and producing quality content.
Mm-hmm. And we got a new show on Sundays at noon Eastern with Charles 75N and Seth from Presley, California Customs. They started a new show, Guitar Safari, which is quite the fun little show. I'm just saying, folks, check it out. And we got Ryan OU812. He burst onto the scene this year and has just been going like gang fire. He's been putting out a bunch of stuff twice a week. Great to see.
Richard says, let me know if you're ever coming up to a show in Charlotte. I actually come up to Charlotte quite a bit. We play in Charlotte quite a bit at Amos's and the Underground and the Fillmore. And then anytime you're in Columbia, hit me up on my social, and I'd love to catch a show with you. And Tony and I are overdue for a show together, although there's one coming up, and I'm going to touch base with Tony offline about that.
Nice. Martian Murray, and yes, Charles, it's Martian Murray, not Martin Murray. Martian Murray says, y'all got me looking at Made in Japan Jazz Masters. As you should.
Yeah, man. The Jazz Master is a crazy guitar, right? Mm-hmm. So, do you have a Jazz Master, Ben?
I don't. It's on my list.
Yeah, I don't.
I'll take it over a Jaguar. I know that much.
Yeah, I don't have one right now. Yeah. I had one years ago, and I let it go because I wasn't using it. And as typical with me, as soon as I let it go, I kind of missed it. So, great guitars. I mean, very useful guitars, more versatile than they're given credit for, and pretty easy to play.
Yep.
Thanks,
really
Jason.
I do like a humbucker Jazz Master as well, because that is a punk rock machine. I'm just saying, as much as a Les Paul Jr. or a Special is, humbucker Jazz Master, forget about it.
Oh my God, a single like P90 or 100 Les Paul Jr. Double cutaway for me is, God, that's a rock machine, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you talk punk rock machine. That's early rock and roll right there. Mm-hmm. Dave Nesdahl had a beautiful, like a 57, 58 reissue Les Paul Jr. double cutaway. You remember that, Ben? The TV yellow one that he had?
Yep, TV yellow with a black guard.
Oh my God, beautiful guitar.
It may still be there, or it may have sold recently. I don't know. I can check into that when I got to reach out to Des in a couple of days, because I was talking with Desiree a week or two ago, Ty, and she was out checking in, and so we're chatting. She's like, "You didn't get anything of Dave's," and I said, "Well, no offense, Des, but Dave has high quality taste, which is a quality that I don't have." And she's like, "Well, there's got to be something, maybe a pedal." Well, she said the P word, and she said, "Well, I have some pedals listed on his page." 14 seconds later, I'm like, "What's the deal on this one and this one and this one?" And she told me. I went, "Okay." So the Noble's ODR 1 Mini is headed this way.
Oh, so that's beautiful, Ben. The other, Dave gifted a Nobles to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first Nobles, and I've since bought 3 of them, including a really old one that I got, that I got turned on to from Bukovac. But you're going to love that pedal. There's also a pedal that if you can grab from Desiree, and I texted with her a few days ago, and I know it's still there, is that Gladio Cornerstone pedal. I bought that pedal for Dave. I'd love to see that pedal go to someone that we both know. And he did like that Gladio a lot. What I saw something Richard said, Jazz Master equals Sonic Youth. I think that's a great point. Great Van Zini PRS SE1 with a P90. That was an amazing guitar. I remember that guitar back in the day. It was a single cut with a black guard. Great Vanzini would tell me whether that was made of Carina or not. If it wasn't made of Carina, it was made to look like it was made of Carina. That is an amazing single P90 guitar right there.
Yes, Eddie, that would be Uncle Larry, who, who he's turned on many people to the OG Nobles, including our friend Tim Pierce. That's his standard for a pedal. What's up, Christopher? No, Desiree doesn't have a reverb page. She's been listing stuff on Dave's Facebook page.
And the guitars, I mean, she's made quite a bit of headway in selling. Oh, Unbelievable says they weren't Carina. What were they? Were they mahogany guitars? But they were made to look like the Carina model. But those were cool guitars.
Carina is just a mahogany variant, anyways. That was, I believe, a marketing thing. Carina didn't exist until Gibson decided to release Carina bodies. My understanding.
You know, Ben, it's funny. So in the last few years, I've gone through 2 Gibson Explorers, and I still have one. And that guitar, look, if you're a Van Halen fan, that guitar is amazing. If you're a Leonard Skinner fan, that guitar is amazing. If you're a Scorpions fan, that guitar is amazing. It's a big chunk of mahogany. Yep. with a revved up bridge pickup that's super throaty and just gives a growl. I'm so impressed with how the Gibson Explorers sound. And I wouldn't be able to tell you any technical specs about the one I have other than it has a mahogany body, a slim 60s neck, medium frets. I don't know what pickups are in it, but it sounds killer. That guitar sounds great.
I've been in the market for an Explorer for a while. That's my focus for this year, without getting sidetracked too much. But I did locate one. It's really hard to find an Explorer right now, but I did find one. 70s reissue. I believe it was originally made in 2008. I think it was a 2008 Gibson 70s reissue. It's sitting in Prince Edward Island right now, so it's on the east coast of Canada. It's sitting in the overstock section of a music store, and they don't have it listed online. So I know unless somebody's in PEI, I'm looking at you, Michael Easter. Don't go to the store, please. It's priced right. So literally, I'm going over to Long McQuaid tomorrow to see about. Let's bring it to Ontario so I can at least play it to make sure it's okay to buy, and it's priced right because they let me accidentally see what they have into it, so I know what they'll get rid of it for.
There's Christopher Sala. Hey, Christopher, it's good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in forever. So good to see you. Yeah, I love my Explorers, you know, and I got one and I liked it, so I got another one. I really liked that one, so I sold the first one. I'm just not a guy that needs more than one Explorer, so I let that one go, and I've kind of slowly been building the fund for a V. So I think the V will be next. I'm not going to bite off what Gibson is selling as their historic Carina 58V, although I would love to. I just can't justify paying that. No. So I'm looking for a different V version.
Sure.
But I want a stop tail. I don't want to string through. I want a stop tail.
Yeah.
I saw a shootout with different ODRs. Couldn't tell the difference on YouTube, but he said it wasn't quite the same, but close. You know, Ferd, I don't. So I have an original ODR, thanks to Dave Nesdahl. I have an original one. It's an early 90s model. And then I have one of the newer ones. I guess the newer one I have is like 5 years old. They are so close that if you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
Right.
to my ears. I mean, your ears may be different, but to my ears, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
Nice.
The other overdrive pedal that I really, really like is the King of Tone, the dual overdrive version of the King of Tone. I really like that pedal. I really like what it does, probably more to the rhythm side of what I do than the lead side of what I do. Kind of tightens everything up. Rhythm wise, I don't use it for solos. You know what I use for solos, Ben? This is going to sound cheesy to a lot of people, and I'm going to put it on YouTube right now. Okay. I use a little Exotic Effects EP booster for solos. It's only it's at about 10 o'clock.
That's all you need.
And I like what that does for me.
Yeah, it just lifts everything just up a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I really like that. I know that's probably unconventional and probably not a popular thing to say, but
I would totally use one for that. I know I was looking at getting one a few years ago for that purpose because I noticed one on everybody's board. And then I noticed half the people were just using it as an always on because they just liked the sound of their signal going through one of those. So I totally get it. What's up, Corey's Garden?
Corey's Garden. Hey, man. Perfect boost, Richard says. So with the Flying V, are you getting the Michael Schenker Flying V or Reno? I'm actually not. I'm going to get one of the historic antique model Flying Vs. More of the traditional ones, but I don't want the string through. I want the stop tail. Thank you, Unbelievable.
Appreciate that.
Karma is real. Yeah, I'm there with you, buddy.
Talk in the soons.
Someday I'm going to get a V Guitar Man 45. Yeah. Guitar Man, have you played one recently? I mean, there's just something about that guitar that feels like rock and roll when it's in your hand. It does something to you psychologically when you're playing it. And then I'm watching some modern day V players, Michael Schenker probably being king of the mountain, but there's a more Spartan type of player that I'm really into. His name is Nick Perry, and Nick and I know each other, and I love his playing. He's originally from Philadelphia. He was in a band called Silvertide back in the early 2000s. They toured with Velvet Revolver. They toured with Van Halen. Great band. Nick is a great guitar player, kind of rooted in the blues. And he has been doing things on a V that are very reminiscent of an Albert King meets kind of meets a Van Halen kind of thing. And it's completely inspiring hearing what kind of tones he gets out of a V. Very cool rock and roll guitar, all attitude, without question. I want the Richie Faulkner one. Yeah, me too. I want Richie Faulkner's hands and dexterity. That's what I want.
I saw, it'd be about a month ago now, when they released a teaser on the Kurt Hammett, like a 70s V, like black with a white pickup. I went, yep, I like that one. I really like that one.
So. Oh, I haven't seen that. I got to check that out.
What's up, Cousin Doug? Tuning in from the infield of Charlotte Motor Speedway, trying to stay dry. Nice.
I'm still waiting for the H90, but did pre-order the Boss SD3000. I pre-ordered it too. And I've seen it showing up with people this weekend, and I'm like, where's mine?
Right.
Yeah, I got one too. Can't wait to get that SDE 3000.
Yeah, it sounds pretty interesting.
It certainly does. Thanks to Pete Thorne. I mean, I think Pete Thorne sold a whole bunch of with this demo video.
There's my favorite producer in the whole wide world, Lambert Drive Studios, in the chat. If you like the mix on the intro song to tonight's show, thank Lambert Drive Studios. He's the one that produced and recorded that.
Do you still own that Carvin Ultra V today? God, I hope you say yes. Oh, I hope you tell me that you still own that guitar. Oh, Doug Marks, do you remember the Metal Method, Ben? The series of how to play guitar, Metal Method with Doug Marks, and
he does still own it.
Oh my! Oh, that is brilliant.
That's awesome, Lee.
I'm so glad you still own that guitar. That Metal Method, was it called Metal Method or Metal Mayhem, something like that? Scott says so, but you got to admit, Scott, he looked totally cool on the cover of that. On the cover of that thing with the Metal Method with the V, right? You got to admit that was brilliant.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all about marketing. He did have the look.
I will tell you, though, the thing about that whole series, a lot of people learned the basics of guitar around that series. So God bless that guy for sharing the gift. But that white V he had back in the 80s, and he was in the back of like Guitar World magazine, Guitar Player. And I just wanted that guitar so bad. Yes, didn't have the custom Hawk guitar.
The Hawk guitar. Yes, I remember the Hawk.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember looking at the Hawk guitar ads going, ooh, that's a bit much even for me. I'm like, I'm a metalhead and all, but ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, but that guy looked like a real guitar player, right? So he probably sold a ton of those products.
Yep.
Scott, that's like such good advice. It's not a competition. Make noise, have fun. There's so much truth into that. Like my journey is so different than your journey, and Ben's journey is different than my journey. There's so much truth to that. I didn't even play guitar in the 80s, but I remember Metal Method with Doug Marks. I mean, the guy was revolution. I mean, he was cutting edge, man. You could send away for like the cassette tapes. Yeah. I don't know how you learn from cassette tapes, but God bless those that did.
He's still on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, cool. Always amusing Michael Anthony Badia.
Well,
I mean,
they're just made for each other, right?
Oh my God. But Ben, you know the thing about Michelangelo Badia, I'll never be able to play like that, but I can look at that man and appreciate how whether you like that style of guitar playing or not, you cannot deny that when you watch that man play, every single note is pronounced. Every single note is delivered with precision. It really is an amazing feat, right? I mean, it's the technical ability that man has is just undeniable. Music Therapy Laz, hey man, haven't seen you in forever. It's so good to see you.
Edwin
Green?
You
can't deny that guy's a beast of a player.
That is true. Laz getting the big welcome. It's good to see.
Yeah.
Laz has got a few shows a week himself. Still putting out some NAMM content.
I'm going to have to check out some Music Therapy Laz content. I'd love to see that.
Lee sent a picture. Oh, look out. All right. Incoming photo from Lee.
So, hey, Laz, you were at NAMM. So tell me about the state of NAMM. Like, was it was it as big as it usually is? Was there more people, less people than usual? What do you think the future is for like physical trade shows like that? I mean, do you think everything will move online, or do you think there's still a big market for those types of shows?
Wow, that's almost like a reverse Randy Rhoads V in a way. There it is.
Oh yeah, man. Holy smoke. That just brings back so many.
Badass.
Oh my God, that's killer.
Yep. That's cool, Lee. That's very cool.
Not as big, but next year will be bigger. Okay, cool. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Then it's supposed to be getting NAM's supposed to get back to January, like their normal NAM time next year too.
Is that right? Are you going to try to go, Ben?
I might. So as things are changing here on the home front, I may be able to travel again. So
my knees hurt says trade shows are going away. It costs too much for every aspect of it. That was kind of the root of my question, what's going to happen with that? Because there were some major brands that did not participate this year, right?
All the major brands for the most part. Like when you figure between FMIC and Gibson and their umbrella of brands, that's over 70% of all guitar sales.
Okay, back that up a minute. Say that again.
So Fender and their brands and Gibson and their brands, that's over 70% of all guitar sales.
Wow. I mean, that's huge market share.
Huge.
Yep. Huge, Ben. 70% between two companies.
Yep.
So Sweetwater's festival is going to be virtual this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one I'm going to one next Saturday, and that one is the first time it's back since COVID started, and it's in person, but it's like Sweetwater's Gear Fest, but about a tenth the size.
Now, Ben, have you been to Sweetwater's Gear Fest before?
I have.
What was that like?
I enjoyed it immensely, other than Ingway's performance, because his tone is, well, shrill, to say the least, and loud. But I thought the
scary good, though, right? I mean, scary good.
Oh, yeah.
He just gets better. That guy just gets better.
Yeah, the coolest thing for me, because there was 4 or 5 pavilion tents, most of which was all gear booths, like a NAMM show, but then one was all used gear from like local vendors, like its own separate flea market. And I thought, for a retail establishment, that's really cool because all they're doing is taking away business from themselves by having that. But that's where I got my Kramer, because it was a local pawn shop that set up a booth in there, and it was great.
Cool. Great Vanzini says, I want Fender to bring Sun back. All right, so quick story. Every time I see Sun, S-U-N-N, I'm a bit nostalgic. The first pro rig I ever had was a Sun rig. And this was first real rig I had, pro rig I had. This was summer 1988. And had Sun gear. It was great. Sounded fantastic. Yep. Sun Beta.
Laz says he thought NAMM was awesome this year. Sure.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad it's still going. I mean, it's such an institution, right?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think Fender is not going to go back at all.
My understanding, selling direct now, right? I mean,
well, they're doing that, and I'm not saying it officially, folks, but Fender is opening a space similar to the Gibson Garage idea in Nashville as well. Like they're going to have a showroom schmooze area, whatever you want to call it. And that's what they're doing, because they found it's cheaper to just fly in their dealers and schmooze them for 5 days than it is to set up a NAMM show exhibit.
Makes sense. So they're gonna open competing storefront with the Gibson Garage in
pretty
Nashville.
Much. Yeah. There's enough room in Nashville for both of them, but sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, that's it.
The Gibson Garage is a pretty cool place. I mean, yeah, I stayed in there for a long time the first time I visited.
Yeah. So
Hey,
yeah,
Jay
something
Hannon.
similar to that.
Good to see you, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got lost in the Gibson Garage the first time. Yeah.
I haven't. I'm trying to think. I think
They
it had
just
just
kept
opened when I
bringing
was
me things, Ben. They would just bring whatever I wanted, and if it was on the conveyor belt above, I could just point to it, and someone would bring it to me. I mean, it
yeah,
was amazing, an amazing experience.
that can get pricey for me. Yeah, real quick.
So that doesn't shock me. So you think that Fender will do that in lieu of pursuing like a NAMM presence?
Yep.
Okay.
No, for a fact. Not that I got that directly from a Fender dealer, but yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it was cheaper for them to fly in like their top 40 accounts and put them up in a hotel than it is to set up a NAMM display.
So he had that Carvin with an ADA preamp and a 100-watt Marshall.
Nice.
I mean, my God, dude, you have the rig.
That's it.
That's amazing. Please say you still have the ADA too, because those are getting all kinds of money right now.
Right.
Yeah. Richard says that he believes that's a misstep for Fender.
I don't know. What now that you can do a 3D model on a website, what do the dealers really need to go in person for?
Yeah.
Nice. Jay was hanging out with Larry Mitchell today.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
That's
Got
amazing.
to introduce Gary to Ellie. Awesome.
Well, if Jay got to introduce Larry to Ellie, then it was Larry's lucky day, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's great, Jay. Hopefully there's video that you're going to post of the two of you playing together.
What's up, Octopus Ears? So he still has the Marshall head, he says. Okay.
Oh, he got rid of the ADA?
Yep. Yeah, BC Rich says typical NAMM display runs something like $30K for a tiny space, not including travel. And I will say the last time I was at a NAMM show, I looked outside and there was 4 tractor trailers for Fender because they literally had Fender on the trailers. And I was like, wow, that's 4 tractor trailers worth of stuff that they brought.
Man, that's amazing. Oh, Jay, I'm sure you didn't suck at all. You were killing it.
Right.
With Larry Mitchell. And Larry was lucky to meet Ellie. So
yeah,
that's a great day. ADA does a thing and it does it well, says Scott. Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
God, I had 2 of them, Ben. I wish I still had both of them.
No kidding.
Oh, Richard says he wishes PRS would bring back their event. So do I. I went to their event, and the first time I went to their event was in my daughter was born in 06. 07 was the first time I went to their event.
Yeah, I remember they used to do a big event like with building.
It was called the PRS Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
It was a huge deal. My pocket got lifted every time I went to that thing.
I bet. We'll go a few more minutes here, folks, and then wrap things up. Any last minute questions and comments in, because this has been a very fun hang.
Is anybody playing? So is anybody in the chat? I know lots of people are playing PRS guitars now, but is anybody in the chat playing any of the newer PRS guitars right now? And if so, what are your experience with the new PRS guitars?
I played a Silver Sky SE yesterday, and it felt just as good as any other Strat I've ever played, like on the US build.
Ben,
I was surprised.
My son bought his first guitar for himself back in January. And he's got lots of guitars around here to play. My son's 19. and he is into Stratocasters, single coil pickups, and he's into players like Hendrix, Stevie Ray, John Frusciante, John Mayer. That's kind of his thing. So he went and bought a Silver Sky. And my God, is that a phenomenal guitar or what? Incredible guitar. Incredible. When he said, I want to try this. He wanted to try Fender Strat. It was just, I don't know what they call it, Ben. You would know better than me, but just an American standard Strat. Sure. And the Silver Sky. And he A-B'd them and chose the Silver Sky. Then put the Silver Sky against the SE version. Went head to head like that. Bought the SE version.
They're close. It's ridiculous. Oh my God!
We got it home, and we played the guitar together, and it was. I was blown away at how good the guitar.
Right?
Guitar is really great.
Thank you, Charles, for the super chat. He says more. Okay. And yes, Guitar Man 45 has a bunch of 90s 10 tops, Ty. 90s 10 tops. So vintage 10 tops. And he just started pulling them out one day. Here's another one. Here's another one. We're just like, we're on a Zoom call, just drooling everywhere. Because I'm like, those are vintage 10 tops. Like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to see those. Richard says he's got a 509 that might be more recent vintage. My PRS my newest PRS that I have is probably an 07 is my newest one. Oh, played a Octopus Ears played a vintage tea today. Nice. Yeah, I like those guitars a lot. I have one.
Friedman vintage tea with humbuckers. Look out. Yep.
Mine has P90s, but I like that guitar a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about the Silver Sky is it is definitely not a Strat of today's standards. It's more of a Strat from the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
I do not own a Strat from the 60s, but the fretboard radius is like 7.5, so it's real vintagey, very easy to chord on. So if you're a cage-based player and you're into chord embellishments, and that whole vibe, like, then you're going to dig it. To Jay's point, if you can get over the headstock,
right,
then it can be a cool guitar. But aesthetics are important, right? So if you can't get over that, then it's not the guitar for you. But
I will say it was interesting because they do market the neck as a 60s Strat style. Well, I don't know how much different the earlier 60s were to the later 60s, but like I have an example of a later 60s Fender neck, and the neck on the Silver Sky is nothing like it. It's smaller than a 60s neck.
But it's so round, like, and you can grab everything on that neck. I mean, up until
the Silver Sky had a little less shoulders, I found. It was just a little less. Everything was just a smaller radius on the back of the neck, I'd say.
I agree. Yeah. That's
just
exactly right.
Just, not much though, but there was that difference.
I agree completely. But you were talking earlier about liking that soft V. It kind of has that feel in the palm.
Yes. There was a bit of a V to it too, which has nothing to do with 60s. That's more of a late 50s Fender thing. But if you're getting a signature guitar, you have that included. Why not?
Right.
Because it feels amazing.
And the neck pickup on that guitar is money. I mean, I will put it against the custom shop Fenders I have. That neck pickup is money. But it is a round neck. So if you're looking for flat, get up and go, you're not going to get it from that guitar. but it is a beautiful guitar to play. Like I said, if you're into the whole chord embellishment, if you're a cage bass player, you're going to love that guitar.
Which is, I play a lot.
And
Didn't
my
know
guitar
until I met this
experience-
guy and he told me I did. Didn't even know. Didn't know.
Yeah, my entire guitar experience is defined by the neck. You know, the guitar. If the neck is wrong for me, for my hand, then I can't get on with it. The neck really kind of defines the playing experience for me, first and foremost. I wish my head didn't work that way, but it does. And so it doesn't matter to me. It can be chunky and I can still love it. I mean, it can be a 58 Les Paul and I still love it. And it can be a Ernie Ball Music Man and be a Petrucci thin kind of neck and I can get on with it. Or it can be a gem and I can dig that too. But the neck just defines the whole experience for me.
That's right. I agree.
I
think that's a great way to that's a great thing to wrap things up on. That's right. It's all about the neck, folks. You know, find the right one that fits right. And and I think part of it is psychological, Ty. Like, I expect a bit of a smaller neck, let's say like in thin, like narrower neck on a Tele to a Les Paul, for instance, but I do like that 60s slim, like not too deep, you know, kind of between a Fender and an Ibanez in a way, but two different necks, but I expect that neck for that guitar. It's weird, like have different expectations on different guitars in that respect.
I hear you. Scott Brockway says, I like a soft V. That is my neck profile. Soft V. My neck profile. I was talking about the Music Man Luke's earlier. That is a soft V. Jeff Beck's Fender is a soft V. I mean, those guitars, my Sirs, both of my favorite Sirs, both have these soft little V type.
Wow,
necks.
Octopus Ears got to play an all original 54 Strat with a V neck.
Oh, I'm sure it was amazing.
I bet that was. Wow, nice. All right. Well, it's been a great show. Hold the line, Ty, as we wrap things up. Thanks everybody that tuned in tonight. Some great comments and questions. Loved it. Loved catching up with Ty. I'll be back tomorrow night with Trev and Terry with Canucks with Guitars live Q&A. Talk more about my adventure yesterday. And extra special thanks to everybody that contributed tonight. Always helps, keeps the lights on and stuff. And as always, hold those doors open. You know, let Ty in ahead of you in traffic. He's on his way to a gig, is what I'm saying. He's on his way, and, you know, he doesn't want to miss load in. So let him in ahead of you in traffic. Do great things, you know, and great things will happen to you because Doug's wife is real. And happy tone chasing. And, of course, don't litter.